Houthi rebels have claimed that American aircraft carrier USS Harry Truman lost its command and control in the initial days of US airstrikes in Yemen. Houthis claim this forced the United States to deploy a second aircraft carrier, USS Carl Vinson, in the Red Sea. And these claims have been made by Mahdi al-Mashat, the head of the Houthi Supreme Political Council.
We've done very well. We've had big success with the Houthis, as you probably know. Nobody's been able to do it like us. And they were shooting the boats out of the water. They were sinking ships. That's what they want to do. They're getting a big charge out of sinking ships.
In the pre-dawn hours of April 1st, 2025, off the coast of Yemen, the USS Harry S. Truman, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier with over 5,000 crew, faced a sudden, coordinated assault. 20 Houthi drones, launched in a calculated swarm, closed in on this symbol of US naval power, threatening to breach its defences in a matter of seconds. The crew's actions in those critical moments would determine whether the attack ended in disaster or in a demonstration of American resolve. We'll reveal how the Truman's layered defences turned a swarm of 20 kamikaze drones into floating debris, and what this means for the future of naval warfare. To understand the true significance of this attack, it's essential to examine how a group like the Houthis became capable of mounting such a threat. Across the Red Sea, a new kind of threat has taken shape. One that relies not on fleets or firepower, but on innovation, strategic patience, and the ability to exploit the vulnerabilities of advanced militaries. The Houthis, a Yemeni rebel group backed by Iran, have transformed low-cost drones into a central pillar of their asymmetric warfare strategy. With Iranian assistance and a growing supply chain for components, the Houthis have fielded drones like the Samad 3, capable of flying over 1,000 miles, and the Qasef-1, which carries a 30-kilogram warhead designed for impact detonation. These drones are inexpensive to produce, easy to operate, and difficult to counter in large numbers. For the Houthis, the objective is not necessarily to destroy high-value targets outright, but to overwhelm sophisticated defense systems, probe for weaknesses, and disrupt the operations of adversaries like the US Navy. Each wave of drones forces a response, forcing powerful warships to expend expensive munitions and constant vigilance against threats that cost only a fraction to deploy. The Red Sea's strategic value cannot be overstated. Over $1 trillion in trade transits the Red Sea corridor annually, making it one of the most vital shipping lanes in the world. The Suez Canal links the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean, and the uninterrupted flow of goods through these waters is essential for the global economy. The US Navy's persistent presence in the region serves to secure these shipping lanes and deter threats to international stability. For the Houthis, this presence is both a symbol of foreign intervention and a direct obstacle to their regional ambitions. By targeting shipping and military vessels, they aim to project influence, disrupt commerce, and challenge American dominance in a highly visible manner. In late 2023, the Houthis escalated their campaign with a series of drone attacks on commercial tankers and cargo ships traveling through the Red Sea. Although these strikes rarely resulted in catastrophic damage, their impact was immediate and far-reaching. Shipping companies rerouted vessels, insurance rates climbed, and the world's attention turned to a rebel group capable of shaking global markets with a handful of drones. Each attack served a dual purpose: to test the readiness of naval defences and to send a strategic message that no vessel, whether civilian or military, was beyond reach. The drones used in these operations were not precision-guided munitions, but disposable airframes loaded with explosives designed to sow chaos, force operational adjustments, and demonstrate the increasing sophistication of Houthi tactics. The technical evolution of the Houthis' drone program has been marked by a steady adoption of more advanced designs and tactics. Iranian support has enabled the group to integrate GPS guidance, extended ranges, and larger payloads. The Samad 3, with its long reach, can threaten targets far from Yemeni territory, while the Kasef-1's explosive payload is intended to inflict damage through direct impact. These drones are launched in coordinated waves, exploiting gaps in radar coverage or saturating defensive systems with simultaneous threats. The intent is not always to sink a ship, but to force adversaries to expend costly interceptors, activate electronic countermeasures, and remain on high alert. This approach allows the Houthis to exert outsized pressure on technologically superior opponents, fundamentally altering the dynamics of conflict in the region. The cumulative effect of these attacks has forced a re-evaluation of naval defensive doctrine. Ships operating in the Red Sea must now contend with unpredictable aerial threats that can appear with little warning and in large numbers. The cost-benefit imbalance is stark. A drone costing a few $1,000s can prompt the launch of a missile worth millions. The Houthis' willingness to deploy swarms of drones, sometimes in conjunction with other weapons, has exposed vulnerabilities in traditional naval operations and highlighted the need for rapid adaptation. Then came the swarm that pushed their tactics to a new level. The attack on the USS Harry S. Truman was not just another probe, but a direct challenge to the core of US naval power in the region. As the drones closed in under cover of darkness, the carrier's crew faced a race against time, relying on layered detection systems and real-time coordination to identify and respond to the threat. The events that unfolded would test every aspect of the Truman's defensive posture and reveal the true stakes of drone warfare in the Red Sea. At 2 a.m. on April 1st, 2025, the calm of the Red Sea was broken by a sudden, coordinated assault. 20 armed drones, more than any previous salvo, poured in from Houthi-held Yemen, their flight paths pre-programmed for maximum effect. The attack was timed to exploit the darkness and the natural radar clutter of the narrow maritime corridor. As the drones closed the distance, the task force's first warning came not from the carrier, but from the USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer stationed nearby. Its ANSPY-1 radar, a core component of the Aegis combat system, picked up fast-moving blips on the edge of its scope. Initial reactions from the radar team considered the possibility of false positives, but the speed and formation of the contacts left little room for doubt. These were hostile drones, not environmental noise. The Gravely's crew responded instantly, initiating the Navy's find, fix, track, target, engage, and assess protocol. This sequence forms the backbone of American naval air defense, designed for rapid decision-making under pressure. Information was relayed to the Truman and the rest of the task force, triggering a general alert. The Carrier's Combat Information Center, CIC, became the nerve center for the unfolding engagement. Operators monitored radar feeds from the AN/SPY-1, AN/SPS-48, and AN/SPS-49V systems, integrating data to build a composite picture of the threat. The challenge was immediate. The S-MADI-3 and COS-F-2K drones flew low, using the sea surface to mask their radar signatures and complicate detection. Their small size and erratic flight patterns made them difficult to track, and the dense swarm formation threatened to saturate defensive systems. Inside the CIC, the crew worked to distinguish genuine threats from background clutter. The radar's sensitivity to low-altitude objects meant that false positives were a constant risk, but the pattern and velocity of the drones quickly confirmed their hostile intent. Each second that passed narrowed the reaction window. Commands were issued rapidly, and the ship's defensive protocols moved from surveillance to active engagement. Coordination between the Truman and the Gravely was critical, with the destroyer's early warning providing the seconds needed to prepare the carrier's defenses. The Houthi swarm was designed to exploit every weakness in the layered defense. By launching the drones in coordinated waves, the attackers sought to overwhelm radar operators and force the ship's automated systems to recalibrate repeatedly. Each wave flew a slightly different path, complicating tracking and increasing the chance that some drones would slip through. The SMAD-3 drones, in particular, used GPS and inertial navigation, meaning there was no pilot to jam. Electronic warfare officers focused instead on scrambling signals and attempting to disrupt the drone's ability to home in on the carrier. Most of the drones were programmed to detonate on impact, maximizing their destructive potential if they reached the ship. As the threat drew closer, the Truman CIC managed the transition from long-range surveillance to layered kinetic defense. The first line of action was the launch of SM-2 Standard missiles, targeting drones at the outer edge of engagement range. These interceptors, guided by radar, are designed to neutralize aerial threats before they can approach critical assets. Several drones were destroyed in the initial volley, but the swarm's density meant that some survived and pressed onward. The next phase involved electronic countermeasures. Specialists activated jamming systems and sensor disruption tools, hoping to confuse the drone's navigation and trigger premature detonations. Despite these efforts, the swarm's design ensured that a number of drones continued to close the gap. The final layer of defense came into play: the close-in weapon systems, CIWS, known as CIWS. These automated Gatling guns, guided by their own radar and optical tracking, fired thousands of tungsten rounds per minute, creating a lethal barrier around the ship. Operators monitored the approach vectors, making split-second decisions as each drone entered the engagement envelope. The CIWS proved decisive, neutralizing the remaining drones before they could reach the Truman's hull. Throughout the engagement, the discipline and training of the crew were evident. Every action, from radar tracking to weapons deployment, was executed according to established protocols. The integration of advanced technology with human judgment allowed the Truman to withstand the most intense drone assault yet seen in the region. With those blips confirmed hostile, the Truman's multi-layer shield snapped to life, starting from the outer SM-2 perimeter to the CIWS last stand. The USS Harry S. Truman's layered defense system is built to handle precisely the kind of multi-vector assault it faced that night. At the core of this system is a tightly integrated network of sensors, interceptors, and close-in weapons, each designed to counter different stages of an incoming attack. The events of April 1st, 2025 put every element of this network to the test. The outermost shield for the Truman was formed by its escorting destroyers, including the USS Gravely and USS Mason, both equipped with the Aegis combat system. These ships extended the carrier's defensive reach far beyond its immediate perimeter, using the AN/SPY-1 radar for 360-degree coverage and rapid threat detection. As the Houthi drones crossed into engagement range, the destroyer's radars worked in concert with the Truman's AN/SPS-48 long-range radar and the AN/SPS-49V air search radar, creating overlapping detection fields. This allowed the task force to spot the incoming drones while they were still dozens of miles out, buying precious time for coordinated response. Once the drones were confirmed, the missile crews launched their primary interceptors. SM-2 Standard missiles targeted high-flying drones up to 100 miles from the carrier, while evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, ESSMs, were deployed to intercept low-altitude threats that slipped past the initial barrage. The SM-2s, guided by radar, are designed to engage aircraft and cruise missiles, but on this night they proved equally effective against the relatively slow-moving SAMAD-3 drones. The ESSMs, with their agility and rapid reaction time, focused on drones flying erratic, pre-programmed paths meant to evade standard interceptors. This combination of long and medium-range missiles thinned the swarm considerably before it could close on the Truman. As the engagement intensified, electronic warfare became a critical part of the defense. EA-18G Growlers from the Truman's air wing took to the skies, jamming control links and disrupting the drone's navigation systems. At least one, Cusf-1 drone lost guidance and spun out of control, crashing into the sea well short of its target. The electronic attack did not neutralize every drone, but it forced many to lose coordination or veer off course, reducing the pressure on the inner defensive layers. Despite the effectiveness of these outer defenses, several drones pressed through, exploiting the volume and speed of the attack. At this point, the Truman and its escorts relied on their last resort systems. The Phalanx Close-In Weapon System, CIWS, positioned at critical points on the carrier, automatically tracked and engaged threats that breached the missile shield. Each Phalanx CIWS fired at a rate of 4,500 rounds per minute, creating a dense barrier of tungsten projectiles. On the Truman's deck, the CIWS guns locked onto the closest drones, shredding them as they entered within a few hundred yards of the ship. In one instance, a drone closed to within several hundred yards before being destroyed by concentrated CIWS fire, a precise demonstration of how close the engagement came to the carrier itself. The effectiveness of the Truman's layered defense relied not only on advanced technology, but also on the crew's discipline and training. Every member, from radar operators to missile crews and CIWS teams, executed their roles according to practice protocols. A senior officer later remarked, "The drills we run are exhausting, but today they made all the difference. Everyone knew exactly what to do, and nobody hesitated." This cohesion ensured that each layer of defense functioned as intended, with no single point of failure. The engagement ended with the Truman and its escorts unharmed, but the incident underscored the evolving nature of naval threats. The Houthi drones were inexpensive and relatively unsophisticated, yet their numbers and tactics forced the US Navy to expend significant resources and rely on every available countermeasure. The defense held, but it was a reminder that even the most advanced systems can be tested by persistent, low-cost threats. As the immediate crisis passed, the implications of the attack began to ripple outward. The Truman's survival was not just a testament to its defenses, but a signal to the Navy and its allies that the balance of naval warfare is shifting. In the hours following the drone assault, US commanders authorized a rapid and coordinated counterstrike. The operation commenced within 18 hours of the initial attack, beginning on April 2nd. The response was measured, deliberate, and multifaceted. Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from both surface ships and submarines targeted identified Houthi drone launch sites and storage facilities deep inside Yemen. FA-18E, Super Hornet fighters from the Truman's Air Wing conducted precision strikes on command centers, while EA-18G Growler aircraft provided electronic warfare support, jamming enemy communications and suppressing air defenses. MQ-9 Reaper drones supplied real-time surveillance, ensuring that each strike was guided by the latest intelligence. French and British naval forces contributed critical intelligence, supporting the operation and underscoring the multinational effort to maintain security in the Red Sea. Despite the focus on military targets and the use of precision-guided munitions, any strike in populated areas carries the risk of collateral damage. The aftermath of the counterstrikes highlighted the moral complexity inherent in modern warfare, where combatants operate from within civilian infrastructure and advanced militaries must balance operational necessity with the imperative to minimize civilian harm. This reality remains a persistent challenge for commanders tasked with responding decisively while upholding international norms. Strategically, the US response had clear objectives: degrade the Houthis' ability to launch further drone attacks, deter future aggression, and send a message to both adversaries and allies. The rapid, precise retaliation reinforced deterrence in the Red Sea corridor, a vital artery for global trade, and reassured regional partners of the US commitment to collective security. The operation's multinational character, with allied intelligence and coordination, demonstrated that the defense of international shipping lanes is a shared priority. The credibility of US naval power and the trust of commercial and military partners was reaffirmed in the wake of the attack. For the US Navy, the events surrounding the Truman incident forced a critical examination of current doctrine and capabilities. The engagement demonstrated both the strengths and the limits of layered defenses against a determined adversary employing massed, low-cost drones. The cost imbalance is stark. Each drone destroyed required the expenditure of expensive missiles or ammunition, while the attackers relied on simple, disposable airframes. This dynamic is reshaping the economics of naval warfare, favoring those who can innovate quickly and exploit gaps in even the most advanced defensive systems. In response, the Navy and its allies are accelerating the development of next-generation countermeasures. Directed energy weapons, such as high-energy lasers and microwave systems, are being tested to provide a more cost-effective means of neutralizing drone swarms. These systems offer the promise of engaging multiple threats simultaneously, with minimal logistical burden compared to traditional interceptors. Artificial intelligence is also being integrated into detection and targeting protocols, enabling faster and more accurate identification of potential threats. AI-driven systems can prioritize targets, allocate resources, and adapt to evolving attack patterns in real time, enhancing the resilience of naval task forces. Electronic warfare remains a crucial component of this evolving defense posture. By disrupting the communication and navigation links of incoming drones, ships can degrade the effectiveness of swarm attacks before they reach critical range. However, the rapid pace of innovation among adversaries means that no solution remains dominant for long. The ongoing contest between advanced militaries and asymmetric forces is defined by adaptation. Each new technology or tactic prompts a counter, driving a cycle of escalation and response. The Houthi attack on the Truman also illustrated the broader strategic logic of asymmetric warfare. By deploying inexpensive, expendable drones in coordinated swarms, the Houthis forced a major naval power to expend significant resources and attention. This approach does not rely on overwhelming firepower, but on exploiting vulnerabilities and stretching defensive systems to their limits. The incident demonstrated that even unsophisticated technology, when used creatively and persistently, can disrupt operations and challenge established doctrines. Ultimately, the lessons of April 1, 2025 extend far beyond the Red Sea. The encounter has become a catalyst for change within naval circles, prompting a reassessment of how to defend high-value assets against evolving threats. The focus now shifts to innovation, developing and deploying new technologies, refining tactics, and building stronger alliances to meet the challenges of the next era. These developments set the stage for a new phase in maritime security. The attack on the Truman was not an isolated event, but part of a larger transformation in how navies must prepare for and respond to emerging threats. As the US Navy adapts to this reality, the implications will be felt across every fleet and every contested waterway. The Houthi attack on the USS Harry S. Truman was more than a test of ship defenses. It exposed a new era in naval warfare, where low-cost drone swarms challenge even the most advanced fleets. Drone swarms demand new defense paradigms. The Truman's survival demonstrates that adaptation, through discipline, integration of advanced sensors, and layered response, remains possible, but emerging threats will require even greater innovation. The US Navy is accelerating efforts to deploy directed energy weapons, enhance electronic warfare capabilities, and integrate AI-driven targeting systems to counter these evolving dangers. If you found this breakdown of modern naval defense insightful, share your thoughts on how drone swarms will shape the next maritime conflict.